Do you want to become a CFO and take control of your career? Our podcast series From Go to CFO will give you a unique insight into what it takes to become a successful CFO. Hosted by the three amigos at AXR Recruitment and Search, myself, Greg O'Shea, and my colleagues Kunal Gupta and Nick Constein, we speak to inspiring and successful CFOs from our network as they share their career journeys with us. It's the closest thing you're going to get to delving into the mind of a CFO. We hope you enjoy it.
Today, we are joined by Mark Broadhead, Executive Director, Finance, Property, and Information Systems at Wesley Mission. Mark's career spans an impressive mix of commercial and purpose-driven organizations, from early beginnings in chartered accounting at Grant Thornton through to senior roles in engineering, manufacturing, and human services. His journey includes time with the Lowy Family Group supporting charitable foundations, almost a decade at RSL Lifecare through a period of significant growth, and now leading finance, property, and IT at Wesley Mission. In this episode, we'll explore Mark's career journey and the lessons learned along the way, from driving transformation and building high-performing teams to balancing purpose with performance. We'll also talk about what it takes to lead with empathy, create environments where people feel valued, and how diverse experiences can help shape someone's authentic, grounded leadership. Thanks for coming, Mark. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Obviously, we've met a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I just thought that it'd be a great story to tell and what we could do to start things off. So where did you grow up? Tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I'm born and bred in Sydney. Grew up in a suburb called Wahroonga. I went to school there. I've got three sisters and my parents are still in the house that they built in 1973. They're doing great. I live in French's Forest and I have three daughters who are 18, 20, 22. And they're fantastic. Married to the lovely Leanne for 26 years. And she also works in human services.
Fantastic.
On the weekend, I like to play golf, walk our rescue Jack Russell Jimmy, play the bagpipes, like to barbecue, and recently become a yoga teacher. So I like to do that as well.
Yeah, that's great. And we'll get into Jimmy vibes in a second.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that because I loved when we caught up you mentioning that. So to give some context to everyone else, can you just give everyone a high-level career summary?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started off in chartered and went through an engineering company, also some time at Mission Australia. Brief stint at a .com, then a private equity company. I worked for the Lowy family for a number of years, and that was very enjoyable. Lowy family, the founders of Westfield, and I worked in their private family business. That was the first half of the career. The second half, the last 15 years, I've been a CFO across now 5 organizations, all focused on human services. The largest ones have been RSL Lifecare for almost 10 years, and then I've just recently left Pathways Residences. I was there for 3.5 years. So RSL Lifecare is a charitable aged care, retirement living and home care business, and Pathways is boutique aged care, and they're also building retirement living.
Yeah. And so that's such a vast group. And I think I'd like to start, if you don't mind, at the Lowy Family Group. And I have done some work with a lot of different family groups. What was that like? And kind of what was your focus on in that role?
So I worked for the area which oversaw their philanthropics. So they had 3 charities that they focused on, the Temora Aviation Museum, Lowy Medical, and the Lowy Institute, which is just a couple of blocks from here. Really, that sparked a continued interest in charitable and non-for-profits.
Yeah.
And then also there was the private family investments and assisting with them. From that, you really get a great sense of stewardship, making sure that we're good custodians of the resources entrusted to us.
Yeah. I was going to ask if you thought that inspired or kicked off the journey into the human services side, I guess.
Yeah, well, I definitely liked the non-for-profit side. I liked it's probably better put as a for-purpose side. And I enjoyed working for those 3, supporting those 3 charities. And so that definitely sparked an interest. Previously, I'd worked at Mission Australia as well.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, I was reflecting this morning, I've kind of gone back and forth about 3 times from the for-purpose to the for-profit. And probably can offer some insights on that as well.
Yeah. And so what do you think are the biggest misconceptions about the differences between working in a commercial environment versus a for-purpose environment?
Yeah, and there are some. So last 15 years, I've been human services, aged care mainly. And what I think a misconception is that the for-profit is all just completely focused on money and the non-for-profit is just not commercial and it's a bit free and easy and a bit casual. What I would say is that in the for-profit companies I've worked for, the passion about care and care for residents and care for excellence is there. And They love the residents just as much as the non-for-profit.
Yeah.
And then in the non-for-profit, people are passionate about stewardship. They want to leave a lasting legacy. They're very aware of what they've inherited in their role, the history of the non-for-profit, because often of them have a lot of history. RSL Lifecare is well over 100 years. Wesley Mission's well over 200 years. And so I think there's probably more similarities than differences.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we get asked on the other side, they've worked in a commercial environment their whole career and they say, I really want to go into something for purpose. I want to have a legacy. I want to do something greater than myself. And we often say, this isn't a ticket to retirement.
No.
It's a group of individuals who are very passionate, driving for a common purpose. And I try to educate the misconception of sometimes that it could be seen as the easy way out or something to that degree, because it's quite difficult, very impactful with what you do.
I completely agree with you. And, for example, at Wesley Mission, if we're asking people for donations, I need to do that knowing that we're good stewards of that money and really looking after it, making sure that the budgets are solid and that we take their donations very seriously.
Yeah. And so your first role as CFO was at RSL.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about what that was like? How did you feel, walking in the door? What was your first kind of 30, 60, 90 days like as CFO for the first time?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, when I left LFG Lowy Group and went to RSL Lifecare, a few people said, what are you going to a non-for-profit? It's like I'm putting myself out to pasture or something. And it couldn't have been further from the truth.
Yeah.
Seniors living is a growing industry and there's a growing demand. Over the period of that time, we did 20 acquisitions. But yeah, in terms of the first 60, 90 days, it's all about just learning the business, learning the people and building good relationships with all those around you.
Yeah. What would you suggest someone who's starting their job to do to actually learn the business or to start the foundation of building those relationships? What are some tips that you would provide for them?
There's a book called The First 90 Days. The author escapes me, but I suppose we could put it in the show notes, could we?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so that's a great book to read because that's crucial because you're on a learning curve, but it's important that when you come in at this role that you do make an impact. Yeah. So it's balancing those two. I think what I enjoy is getting out to site and speaking to the frontline and the frontline managers and hearing about what their day's like, because that's the service delivery. That's what the organization's all about. So it's getting a really good understanding about that as quickly as possible so you can make decisions to best help that, because there's so many things on your plate. What I found is there's always too much to do.
Yeah.
So the key is working out, what are the right things to do?
Yeah. And so then how do you balance that? I mean, it's a mission-driven purpose with the actual commercial discipline of running an organization.
Yeah.
Because it's not always as easy. How do you get the message across or how do you manage that?
So I was quite fortunate that the equivalent of community services, so a COO, but he's the executive director of community services, started the same day as me. And then also another executive director started about a month earlier, and she looks after strategy, people and partnerships. I think a real key is developing strong collaborative relationships with them, that you're working as one. And so I said to them, and they agree, we only may do a few things, but let's agree on them and do them together and send our message together. I know at previous organizations and the one I've come from, I enjoyed a really good relationship with the COO and we were able to achieve a lot of great things together and with the managing director. So a strong, collaborative, united executive team is so crucial for success of an organization.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd love to just jump back to one you mentioned previously was you went through more than 20 acquisitions. What was that like? Because that's a significant level of activity. What did you learn from that? How did you manage that kind of?
Yeah, well, everyone's different. Every acquisition is different. So you can get your checklist and your playbook, but every single one is different. And the key to managing it effectively is teamwork. Just having a good team with people working together and knowing what their job is. Bit like a sporting team.
Yeah.
Knowing what their job is and executing on that. And then a second thing I'd say is time on the ground. There's no substitute for walking around, speaking to staff, getting to know the facilities, getting to know the residents, getting to know the feel and the culture of the place. Because if you're amalgamating with another organization, that's a big cultural change on their part.
Yeah.
So you've got to help them and support them on that and make it a success.
Yeah. Is there any one in particular that stand out as particularly challenging and kind of how did you overcome that?
So one that did stand out that was large was the Southern Diocese of Anglicare. So it was 5 aged care facilities, 3 retirement villages, and a large home care business all on the same day.
Yeah, wow.
And that was from as south as Eden on the New South Wales Victorian border, and then up to the ACT. So it was geographically dispersed. So it would be about communication with the residents and making sure that their questions are answered. They know what our plans are. They know what we want to do, because change can be uncertain for people. Same with the staff, helping them along the journey, understanding the culture, and also respecting the legacy that Anglicare had in those areas and their vision for those facilities.
Yeah, and you've mentioned on a few occasions that the importance of respecting legacy while driving change.
Yeah.
And so how do you go about that process in terms of, I know you said communicating and all that, but what's the kind of, do you have a playbook, or how does that work?
So balancing the cultural change and also the legacy is, I think, clear communication with your staff and your consistency of leadership and a consultative approach. What I've found going through my career is that everyone's got things going on at home, and there can be ups and downs at home, but at work, as much as you can, make things consistent and clear. And so that when they look at you as a leader, they know what they're getting. They don't know you don't want to be the type of leader that they're going, oh, what version of him are we going to get today?
Yeah.
It's clear and consistent and concise.
Yeah, perfect. And so when we caught up a few weeks ago, there was something you mentioned. You used these 3 questions. It was a great framework for engagement. And it was, am I valued? Am I growing? And am I contributing? Can you tell us where that came from? And how do you apply that kind of within your teams?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I came up with that myself. I'm going to claim credit. And it was questions that I asked myself about my own role. When, from time to time, when you reflect on your own role, you ask those questions, am I valued? Am I growing? And am I contributing? And if you could answer yes to those 3 questions, then I think you're in a pretty good place. So the next step on that is about my team and the people I lead. Do they feel valued? Are they growing? And are they contributing? And that is something that I need to take responsibility for, not just making deliverables, rolling out month end, getting the accounts done, making sure we're on budget and all those other things, which are obviously very, very important. But do those people feel that? Do they feel valued when they sit in my office and we chat? Am I engaged and looking at them? Am I interested in their growth as a person and as a professional? And am I asking them for a contribution? And I think if you can do those 3 things, you're a good leader.
Yeah. I find that really, I guess the best way of saying this, it's a simple tactic of reflection. Just being able to say, am I valued? Am I growing? Am I contributing? And the general consensus is if it's yes, then you're in a pretty good spot, and I think that's a really good measuring stick to check in, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And so with that in mind, how do you bring people along on the journey? You joined a large complex business, RSL, or now Wesley. How do you check in on them? How do you drive that change with them?
Well, you put in front of them the vision. So one thing that we've been talking about is, what's the company going to be like in 10 years' time? Are the people in the room going to be thanking us for the decisions we're making now? Wesley's Mission's been around for over 200 years. And it's got a long-lasting legacy. And so the decisions we make need to have that frame of, okay, we are not just here for a job. We're stewards of something and we're custodians, and one day we will pass that on. To answer your question, a clear vision, and then also clarity around what people's roles are and what are you asking of them. So, for example, you may be asking them to change. And so say that. Say, we're asking you to do something a bit differently or think a bit differently. And I know that's going to be different and maybe challenging, but I'm asking you to do that and I'll walk with you on that. And then for your key people, you're meeting as a group and you're talking about the various projects you're doing. But one-to-one meetings, I'm a massive believer in that. So each of my direct reports will have one-to-one in the diary with me. And that always happens. And if it gets shifted around, we make sure that happens. And that's their opportunity to ask me any questions, for me to check in and just see how they're going. And it's not just transactional. And as much as I can, I try to be very present for those meetings, very focused and even energized. I don't really want to have them at the end of the day. I'd like to have them maybe just after lunch and spread out.
Yeah.
Because I think it's really important they feel that they've got that opportunity to say what they need to say in a safe environment.
Yeah. We caught up and you referenced Jimmy. And I think that was one of the funniest ways of explaining your high energy. But could you explain what the Jimmy vibes are?
Yeah, absolutely. So Jimmy is our Jack Russell Terrier. We got him about a year ago. He was a rescue and he was 9 years old when we got him. And I think he's living his life in reverse because he was with an elderly lady in her unit and didn't get much exercise, didn't go out much. And then he's come to our house we've got 3 daughters with all our friends coming over. He gets a couple of walks a day and he's just loving life. We take him to the park, we take him swimming, and he brings these great vibes. So in our family, we talk about bringing the Jimmy vibes. So he comes in and he's got energy. He's wagging his tail. He's going, what's happening? You've got to be very careful you don't say the W word, walk. Because if anyone says walk, he's running to his lead. He's barking. He's like, we're on.
Yeah.
So much energy. And he really brings up the tone. And so I've started talking about this with a few of my colleagues saying, bringing the Jimmy vibes. And we refer to people who come in and they've got great energy.
Yeah.
And they're excited to be there and they're happy to be there. And they just up the level of the energy in the room. And so, we talk about they're bringing the Jimmy vibes. And it's something that I really like, the energy that people bring into the room and that it's positive. And just like Jimmy, he comes in, he wags his tail. So, I mean, if Jimmy came in right now, he'd be wagging his tail, he'd jump in your lap, he'd come over and say hello to everyone. And he loves life. And I think I've learned a lot from Jimmy.
Yeah, and I think it's contagious.
Absolutely.
Like you feel the energy. And then on the opposite side of that, someone walks into the room and they look very disappointed or very upset or solemn. It sucks the energy straight out of the room. It's horrible.
Without question. And, this podcast is Go to CFO. It's about the journey to CFO. And for anyone who wants to become a CFO, bring the Jimmy vibes. When you go in and when you speak to the CFO, when you've got time with executives, bring those vibes where it's can do. I'm glad to be here. It's positive. We can work together. Life is good. If you bring those vibes, doors will open for you.
And so how do you maintain energy and purpose in such a demanding role? Like what do you do to keep yourself up at that point? Because like you said, there's always things happening. Life happens outside of work.
Yeah.
How do you show up regardless of what's happening?
Well, I'm not a fan of burnout, and I think, and I do not want anyone on my team or around me burning out. I think that is a really sad thing to happen. So I think consistency is a wonderful thing. And so I will do something for me regularly. So what fills my cup is I like to go to the gym. I like yoga. I like to play golf. And even to the extent that in my diary, if you have a look at my calendar, those activities will be in there and highlighted a different color. So, I may have a lot on during the week, but you'll see some green, going out with friends or a date night or something like that. So making sure that each day I'm doing something for myself, pretty strict with my diet, making sure that, the food they're putting me is good, trying to get a good night's sleep and exercise.
Yeah, that's great. So one of the topics I think that left me really reflecting after our conversation was your involvement of actually going on site and being with the residents.
Yes.
And I'd love for you, if you don't mind, to share what that looks like and then kind of some of the impact that that's had on you long term.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, meeting with the staff, meeting with the clients is something that I think is crucial for something in my role. There'll always be emails and reports to write and things to do in my office. I could busy myself quite easily 5 days a week in my office, but going out to the front line and speaking and getting to know residents is something that's a really nice thing. Back at RSL Lifecare, we used to have lunch every week with the residents and I got to know them quite well and to hear their stories. I mean, some of them are 56 years older than me. And to hear their stories, what life was like, was wonderful. A funny anecdote is that as I play the bagpipes, a lot of them would say to me, when I pass away, would you play pipes at my funeral? And I would just sort of joke, say, oh, yeah, okay, no problem. And then from time to time, I get a phone call from a nephew or a grandson and say, do you remember Stan? Or a name to that effect. So, yeah. And they go, well, I've got this note here to call you because you said you'd play bagpipes at his funeral. And so that happens about once a year where I go and given the opportunity to play at their funeral. And that's a nice time to reflect on the conversations we had and also their contribution to our country.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And also going out to the front line. A couple of weeks ago at Wesley Mission, I went out to the community housing site and met with the team. I mean, they provide community housing for over 600 people. And just to hear their stories and their passion and their commitment to providing safe and affordable housing for people, that just energizes me. I'd had a really busy week, but I drove home that afternoon just feeling like, wow, this is just fantastic. And to hear stories about that commitment is wonderful. And another story, if I may, from time to time, people may leave us a gift or a donation in their estate. And there was one situation where an elderly lady who had no family left her house to us. And that was very nice. But I found out that one of our staff went into the house and there was a whole heap of furniture, and some of it was old, some of it was new. And rather than just put it on the curb and let it be donated, they researched throughout Wesley Mission, where could we repurpose all this furniture? Wow. And they took all the furniture and put it in, the homeless shelters or community housing or disability accommodation. And that was a lot of effort. And the thing that I really liked about it is that I bet the lady who donated the house would be very pleased with that result.
Yeah, that's an exceptional way of repurpose. And
yeah.
I think that passion is so admirable and contagious. I love the idea of that. I think that when you're talking about it energizing you, I can absolutely see how that makes you so excited about coming to work every day.
Yeah, really, really great people.
Yeah.
And really caring people who love the clients and are so passionate.
Yeah. And so outside of your day job, I know that you're quite active in the community. You run a aged care CFO roundtable regularly, and you're also a mentor at the CPA program. Can you tell me how you got involved outside of that and in those programs?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the mentoring, I just got an email from CPA Australia saying, do you want to be a mentor? And I looked at the advertising in the video and I thought, yeah, this is something I could give back. So the intent was to give back, but I've been a winner with the mentor program because I now mentor 3 people, 2 from CPA Australia and 1 from from Pathways. And I always come away from our mentor sessions. I'm so energized and encouraged because the people sitting across the table from me are hungry, they're passionate, and they're hardworking, and they're teaching me things. And so obviously I can offer some reflections and help them through some of the challenges that they have. But for me, I just find it, because of their passion for learning, because of their passion for growth, I just find it something that rubs off on me and it has positively affected me. So I've loved that. The Aged Care Seniors Living Group. So that's been going for about 20 years. About 8 years ago, I was asked to be the chair or the facilitator of that. There's about 45 of us on the list now, and we meet quarterly. And we'll meet for a morning and have various speakers come and talk to us about the industry, about any challenges we may have. And the thing that's really great about that is not only the speakers, but actually the community that creates. So pretty much every week there'll be an email going out asking a question about, well, what's happening here? What are you doing with that? And it's very collaborative and we support each other. And the great thing about getting in a group with some like-minded people is you realize that we've all got similar challenges. And you're not alone in those challenges. Yeah. And so that collegiate support is something I really, really enjoy. And so that group's been flourishing. And yeah, we're meeting next month for the final meeting of the year. And I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's great. And so what are some of the things that surprised you about the challenges that you share? What were some of the things where you thought, oh, I'm alone on this? And then you realize actually, no, everybody else is.
Dealing with the change in regulation. So tomorrow, the new aged care Aged Care Act starts. And so everyone feels the challenge of making sure that we're compliant, making sure we're doing all the right things, making sure the systems are up to date, making sure our staff are supported, and making sure that our clients get the best outcomes possible. So, and then there's, complex budgeting reform that we need to get our head around, the accommodation pricing, the reporting. So I think the aged care industry has some of the highest levels of reporting in terms of complexity that we need to provide, and just wrapping our heads around and supporting that. Then there's the HR issues coming out of COVID and lockdown, helping people sort of readjust to coming back to the office. Yeah. And how that works and why that works and what's good. Because I think there is great to offer a flexible working environment, but also there's nothing like being in the same room and the energy that provides. Like going back to, am I valued, growing and contributing? It's best to ask those questions face to face rather than on Zoom.
Yeah. And I think you don't get the kind of coincidental check-ins where you can walk by and look at someone and go, are you okay? Like, do you need anything? Can I help you? And then they're probably not going to call you if they're just sitting at home. At least that's my opinion.
I completely agree with you. And it just in my 2 months at Wesley, the people I've met in the office from other departments and you just have a conversation, for example, around business insights or dashboards, and you go, wow, they're across it. They're really good. And so let's make sure that when we've got a project, we'll bring them in and ask them.
Yeah.
So in terms of your career development, being in the office and those casual conversations you have with people are really, really important.
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. I'm on the come back to work office, but come back to the office bandwagon, but I can see obviously some flexibility is important.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so now that you mentioned just the technology side and kind of dashboards and reporting, do you feel that having oversight of both finance and technology gives you a better leverage point?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Because in terms of the human services area and providing financial reports for those who manage those areas, I think working with IT to provide timely, insightful dashboards that are forward-looking is crucial for financial delivery.
Yeah.
So what we're doing now at Wesley Mission is looking at dashboards and how they can support the industry and support managers looking forward, like what's their roster looking forward, what's their client numbers looking forward, rather than looking in the rearview mirror.
Yeah. How do you feel the level of education from a finance perspective, from the clinical side, impacts the delivery of a new system or a new dashboard?
So in terms of financial education, I think accountancy is simply put is communication. So I think it's really important that we identify what are the levers in the business that we want the managers to be aware of, and let's give them some reports that gives them insights into pulling those levers, adjusting their roster, adjusting their marketing, adjusting their client numbers to deliver the financial results. It's fair to say that people at the service delivery line didn't get into it to do accounting. They did it to provide care, but financial management is crucial. So how can I simply communicate the levers so they can look at them and then go about their day?
Yeah. From a clinical responsibility or a delivery standpoint, how do you feel giving them that information empowers them as opposed to being because I always find the balance quite difficult. Finance wants to deliver a project. They want them to have better visibility. And then they're going, well, I'm not an accountant, so I don't want to read about this. But how do you translate that into something that makes it impactful for them to understand?
Well, I think firstly, we don't want to take too much of their time. So for business intelligence, I've got this test called the cup of coffee test. So by the time they've drunk a cup of coffee, they should have all of the information they need. And if they can do that every day, it's simple and it's consistent, then it's not being a drain on their day. Rather than say we have a meeting about their finances and they've got to spend 2 hours reading through and pouring through it to try and understand them and what does it mean, and making it difficult for them to do that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Interesting. Okay. And so I think, the hot topic is AI and developing kind of a use within a business. How do you see that impacting in a company like Wesley?
Yeah, that's a great question. We've got Copilot and we're doing some lunch and learns and getting to know how it can help us. I mean, I think in terms of supporting our administration, there's a lot of quick wins there. And in terms of financial analysis, there's some quick wins there. But at the end of the day, it's a human services business and it's about human connection. And so I think that will always remain. And so I think initially AI is really going to help us with our administration, policy writing, and some of those things that save us a bit of time. Ultimately, it's a human services company. And so I can't see computers replacing that.
Yeah. And I think the human touch is, inevitably not responsive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I guess in this section of the podcast, we'd love to just kind of reflect a little bit on lessons learned through your career. So I guess if you could think back on your career, looking back, what's one decision that significantly shaped your career?
Yeah, I think the decision to be a networker, to grow and to continually learn. So to embrace the learning, that you never arrive. There's always something new. There's always change. There's always people out there who can teach you something. I think networking is really, really powerful because everyone is a walking, talking biography and you can learn something from everyone. Whether they're younger than you and starting their career or whether they're 20 years ahead of you, whether they're in a completely different industry, you can learn something from everyone. And so I regularly try to get to networking events. And I've got a saying that if you can learn one thing and meet one person, then it's worthwhile.
Yeah.
And then you do that consistently over a number of years. And you've built a really great network of people who you can rely on, who you can talk to, who you can learn from.
Yeah. And in your career, I know you've been a mentor. Were you actively reaching out to mentors throughout your time?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they might not know that they're my mentor, but they're people I lean on, people who know my career, and people I'll ask for their opinion from time to time. For example, the move to Wesley Mission, there's a couple of people who I spoke to, and they were very, very helpful about that.
Yeah. And so for aspiring CFOs, someone who's never sat in that seat previously, what is one piece of advice you would offer regarding, career development and personal growth?
Such a good question. Be a networker, be a learner, be a grower. And I suppose I've just given you 3 pieces of advice. Yeah, but I think a really important thing is back yourself. I think when I speak to people, a lot of people have self-doubt and think, I can't do it, but you can do it. Everyone has self-doubt, and it's just a matter of overcoming it. And I think, even now, sometimes when I present, you do have those self-doubts come up, but just back yourself. You're awesome, and go for it. Make the conversation, reach out to that person. I mean, with my daughters, I really encourage them, when they're in the office and they see someone who is senior in an organization, go up to them and engage them, especially in the coffee room or something like that, because they've got a few minutes, and ask them insightful questions, build relationships, because you never know what door's going to open.
Yeah. I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah.
I think that, it's funny. We had someone on as a guest previously who was a grad, and the CFO asked for someone to volunteer to do a project, and they did it. And all of a sudden they've been marked as a high performer and had a tremendous career in their business. And I think stepping out of the shadows of what you perceive and going for it and just having a real try to make it work is a huge career difference maker.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think it's fair to assume that people at the CEO level or CFO or COO level have a lot on their plate and probably too much to think about. And so if you show yourself as someone who can take that thinking from them and offer some good insights, they will gravitate to you. They will say, I want that person helping, because you're someone who brings insights and energy to the table.
Yeah. I'd like to just close by talking about Wesley Mission.
Sure.
Can you just give everyone a bit on what's Wesley Mission's purpose and a bit about the organization?
Yeah, so it began 200 years ago when Wesley stepped in to challenge inequity and walk with those in need. Wesley Mission is a non-for-profit community services and a church that together wants to do more good. We support children, families, older people, people with disabilities, people going through situations like financial hardship and poor mental health. Very big on gambling reform. So our CEO, Stu Cameron, will be on the radio regularly talking about gambling reform, and we will support people in all stages of life to find the community services and safety nets that they need.
Yeah. And so keeping that in mind and thinking about your previous comment on stewardship, what legacy do you hope to leave at Wesley Mission?
So at Wesley Mission, the legacy I'm hoping to leave is to help set the organization up to do all the good they can so every life matters. So the areas I'm entrusted to, finance, IT, and property, to make decisions that in 10, 20, 50 years' time, they're going to be saying they were good decisions. Wesley Mission's stronger because of that season of leadership.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, with that, thank you so much, Mark. I really enjoyed this conversation. It's always energizing to be around you. I love you have such a contagious personality. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy the insights from our network of inspiring finance leaders as they share their journey from Go to CFO. If you're looking to make the next move in your finance career or build your team, get in contact with the team at AXR Recruitment and Search today. We're passionate about building careers, not jobs, teams, not just hires. If you enjoyed the episode, hit the like button and subscribe today. See you next time.